So what I'm trying to say is AI learns and remembers. So just be mindful of what you are putting.
What's some of the most dangerous lies that leaders are being told about AI right now? And apart from vendors promising them that they'll do everything, but what are some of the most dangerous lies that leaders are being told about AI, and what impact does believing some of these lies have on a company's AI journey?
There are many. I'll start with the most common and the obvious one, overlooking governance. So people start with, okay, let's start and conceptualize, and we'll think about governance later. It will come back biting back, in fact. And that is probably the biggest lie that most of the, business leaders might have heard, that, okay, let's just start. Without thinking of compliance, that could lead into such a, like a huge risk down the line, in 6 months, 12 months down the line. If your design is wrong, if your approach is wrong, if you're replacing and displacing, people in the process, or regulations, or even sometimes SDG goals, it only takes one person in 12 months down the line to say, yeah, my data, I can't see if this is explainable, this is not transparent, you're doing this and you're doing that. That's it. It only takes one person to complain. So they often overlook that piece. So that I feel is a biggest lie. So what I'm trying to say is AI learns and remembers. So just be mindful of what you are putting.
I don't think there's a single person that'll be watching this podcast, including myself, who isn't going to jump on Chat GPT straight after it.
Thereafter.
We'll see what they know.
Welcome to the Secure Cyber Connect podcast with Jay Adamson and Warren Atkinson, where we're joined by information cybersecurity, technology, and talent acquisition professionals. We share their journeys, unique perspectives, and offer advice and guidance.
Our topics on this episode will be AI Strategy 101 and why 80% of projects fail, along with some advice on success and leadership. Today we're thrilled to be joined by Sherin Mathew. Sherin is founder and chief AI officer of AI Tech, and also founder of Innovation X, a dynamic platform connecting UK regions with global frontier innovation and bringing together ambitious businesses and cutting-edge technology. Sherin is a visionary and a pragmatic technology leader with over 2 decades of experience delivering AI-led transformation across government, enterprise, and regulated sectors. He combines deep expertise in Gen AI, secure data platforms, and AI governance across ISO 42001, the EU AI Act, and NIST. He's worked with organisations such as Microsoft, IBM, NHS, Ministry of Defence, and the ICO to build ethical, scalable AI systems. Sherin thrives at the intersection of product development and public impact, leading cross-functional teams to deliver open source, sovereign AI applications in complex environments. Equally adept at strategy and implementation, he bridges policy and innovation to deliver AI solutions that work in high security, offline, or mission critical settings. He's also been recognised as a Data IQ Top 100 data leader and 60leaders.com contributor. Sherin, welcome to the Secure Cyber Connect podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We've been looking forward to this one for quite some time.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Warren. Wow, what a warm welcome, and good morning to everyone. So really excited to talk about everything. I know there's a lot of questions ahead. So yeah, let me know how we can get started.
No, that's fantastic. And to kick things off, can you give the audience a brief high-level overview of some of the themes and topics that we're going to explore in this discussion today, please, Sherin?
Absolutely, Warren. So first thing I want to do is really make AI real for everyone. And we often talk about AI. Not many leaders know what really it does for them, and what's the art of possible, and what are the right use cases. And more importantly, making it simple, safe, strategic, and successful. Because there's so much fear and myths and fear mongering around what is AI, why projects fail, and why others succeed, and I don't get the competitive advantage. And I think let's try to focus on value.
No, that's brilliant. I'm looking forward to unpacking that. And before we do that, could you share with the audience a significant challenge that you perhaps faced in your career that's helped shape your views and perspective on cybersecurity and tech, broadly speaking?
Ooh, interesting question. Shall I go 20 years back or? 10. Okay, I'll go 10 years back. So 10 years back, working within public sector, NHS, every transformation, anytime that we have seen, it comes with its own challenge. NHS was trying to take data to cloud for the first time and trying to do things like predictive analytics. No one called AI at that time. The first challenge was really taking those mission critical personal data on cloud and trying to process that. So that was the first challenge. The data transformation alone was the first challenge, which is common across various enterprises today. The next challenge in the same scenario was the intellectual security challenge. For example, data holds patterns, it holds intelligence that sometimes get trained on AI model that we do not own. And that is a huge security and privacy risk. So not just data sovereignty, AI sovereignty, these two combined together is something that not many businesses and leaders are aware of today.
And have you had your hands burnt? Was there a moment perhaps with AI that you really thought, wow, I need to do more and I need to contribute to the industry?
Yes, many times really. And fortunately, the way I have done most of the project is being very pragmatic. So starting strategically in a simple sandbox environment, looking at concepts and idea first. We don't go straight away taking all this data or sensitive information and putting it onto a public platform. So the approach that we took has been thankfully saved us on many occasions. So I often go with that as a best practice as well, which is what's recommended for many leaders to do so.
I appreciate you sharing there.
And look, getting into a bit more about your own personal experiences, doing a bit of a reality check on AI, if you will. What do you think's been some of the or maybe what's been the biggest misunderstanding that many business leaders have regarding AI?
I feel there's two, which is very common, which is a hyper optimistic view, which is let's sprinkle AI on everything. In principle, yes, that's the right approach to get started with. But I think the practical thing is not every business process needs AI or simple AI or generative AI, for example. Some business process might need solid AI. And this leads into the next extreme scenario, which is some people think, oh, AI is so complicated. It is rocket science. And they get that phobia that this is never going to work. It's not for me and it will replace jobs. And if it brings some significant challenges. So you get two extreme views. One is hyper optimistic and then the other one is extreme pessimist.
Absolutely. And we've talked many times in the past, and you've often stated that AI it's not just a tech feature. It's a leadership decision. You explain a bit more what this clear distinction between those two statements and why that matters so much.
Yeah, so let's put AI, if you assume AI as a technology, let's assume it's a car for now. And leadership is like us driving it. Okay. Now we all know our destination. Leaders know their destination, that we need to get there, take our business there. How do we get there? That choice is leadership. Okay, what are we going to use? Public transport? Are we going to stick to our old-fashioned cycle, or are we going to get the next fast car? So the choice, especially with driving AI transformation, is really leadership choice, and they have to make those conscious decisions. Like, am I going for a Uber, or am I going to get a Fiesta, or am I going to get a Ferrari? And more importantly, how am I going to get to A to Z or my destination by delivering value? When I say value, it is EBITDA, impact for everyone, impact for people, and impact for organization. So it's really making those conscious choice. So sometimes it's not the technology, and technology, in terms of technology, there's so many options these days. You could go with something simple wrapped around API, or you could build something solid and sovereign. So you got two extremes in terms of choices. So it all boils down to what leadership approach and strategy you take.
Absolutely. And look, we're all already, a bit sort of AI fatigued with all the seemingly never-ending hype around it.
Mhm.
How can leaders cut through this noise, focus on what really matters?
Yeah, so there's there's so many things you could do to make it right. So let's start with the first one, which I often say is start strategically with solving a genuine problem in a smart way. So I know it's a complicated one to dissect and easy to say. When I say strategic, it means it needs to solve a genuine business problem that's been dragging you, which has been really manual, laborious, boring, and impacting your productivity efficiency. So really picking one of those critical business challenges. So if you nail that, that's it. You had a good start. And the next word that I often use is smart choices of technology. So really knowing when to buy and when to build. And this all depends on the risk involved in that particular process. Marketing may not be high risk, which means you can go for simple AI tools. However, full blown operational optimization with your sensitive data and previous pattern is mission critical. You can't just loosely put that somewhere and expect APIs to do things. So those are the things where you might have to go with a classic AI, which is machine learning approach. So making those choices. So yes, start with a problem and make smart technology choices and do it strategically. Strategy means, is this going to give me 5%, 10%, or 15, 20% return? So the choices is based on the impact, the EBITDA, the value, and the ROI. So if you stack all of these together, that's your first protocol.
Yeah, something that we speak about with a lot of leaders is start with the end in mind. Where do you want to be, what do you want to achieve, and work back from there.
And looking at many of these projects, and trying to understand why so many of them are failing at the moment. You've personally mentioned, I think, that previously around 80% of all projects, AI projects, fail. What are the main reasons behind this?
Yeah, 80% is conservative. Gartners often say Gartners was 85%. And especially with Gen AI, it's sometimes an agentic, it's close to 90. So the three main reasons, in my opinion, is firstly not knowing what they're doing, so lack of knowledge and lack of internal knowledge and the technology knowledge and the management knowledge. So knowledge is the first and the biggest barrier. So if a business or organization has never done AI, they wouldn't know how to transform, and that becomes the first problem. Then they think, oh, let's get a data scientist and let's just crack on. They struggle to manage the end-to-end life cycle. So the depth and the breadth of AI transformation is huge. It's quite disruptive in terms of change. People, technology, and processes and governance all change. So managing all of this becomes the second reason why most of the projects fail. And lastly, which I briefly mentioned, is governance. Not knowing what they're doing, how to audit it, how to manage it, and how to be compliant becomes an afterthought or sometimes even dismissed. And that's where the projects fail, because when it gets approved as a pilot, when you try to roll that out in real world, and that's not going to work. We're taking data the wrong way, we're storing and processing things the wrong way, it won't work. And yeah, sometimes all the governance, compliance, and risk side of things disrupt the projects massively.
We know many organizations are struggling to scale beyond the pilots. And I suppose from your side, what key mindset shifts would you say are critical to move away from maybe the experimental stage to have that lasting impact?
Yeah, so it's being mindful of there are many things to factor here. I often say start in a sandbox environment where things are in your control, i.e., users, engagement, scope, technology, and also the risk. So if pilot is done in a controlled sandbox environment, that's great. It still needs the full, it shouldn't be just IT led initiative. Someone decided, well, let me just experiment this. Great, that's a good start, but I think it needs to become a leadership and a executive driven, transparent and open and a business outcome driven initiative, not just some IT guy decided, what, I'm going to try some new tool and crack on with it and see what we can do. Yeah, that's where I think one of the problems arise, because it becomes almost another shadow IT or a siloed project.
Absolutely.
Lastly, to take it to the production, we got to think about compliance first, privacy first, not like, okay, privacy later, we'll think about it. We need to start with compliance first, and compliance by design approach. And all of this right at the start saves you huge amount of money, effort, risk, reputational damage going forward. So yeah, there's a lot in there. People often forget change management because they think, oh yeah, I'm going to build this AI and just going to roll out. No, it's
and nothing's going to have a bigger impact on change management than AI in the history of tech.
Yeah, so they forget to do stakeholder mapping. They forget to do things like readiness assessment, and they don't map the opportunity. They just think this is the way forward, and they miss out this and that, which could be a low-hanging fruit.
I appreciate you sharing there. What are some of the other hidden costs that occur when businesses treat AI like a side project or experiment rather than the core capability? What putting in resources, for instance, and timescales?
Yeah, so the hidden cost, I would say, in my opinion, mostly is it becoming a shadow IT or a siloed project, resulting into no coordination, duplications, and internal conflict. I know sometimes AI project is not just a technical project; it becomes a strategic project, and sometimes the culture becomes a barrier, saying, "Why are we doing this? Is this to replace my job? I'm not going to give my data. I'm not going to test this platform." So there's a little bit of what we call a cultural conflict that also causes a huge issue. Another hidden cost is we often overlook compliance. So compliance gets retrofitted, it becomes an afterthought, comes at the end after 12 months or 18 months, and then everyone's scratching their head thinking, oh, how do we make it secure? How do we put privacy in place? And that becomes a huge challenge. So compliance is a huge hidden cost. And I forgot to address the elephant in the room, which is data. People start the project and forget that they don't have the right data. Data's in a mess. Data governance is not there, and quality is poor. So all of this results into various hidden costs. And last but not the least, I've seen this more often where people spend a lot of time, especially leaders, trying to drive this project 6 months, 12 months in, nothing has happened. Try to factor the senior executive time, trying to do all the research, hiring someone, trying to procure different platform, testing a few things here and there. And after 12 months, after spending time with few vendors, yeah, if you factor that time in senior executives' time, almost 6 to 12 months, that's a lot of time. So these are the hidden costs.
Yeah, and I think something that we spoke about often is that fortune does favour the brave. Those that are playing around with AI are certainly find themselves ahead of organisations and their peers. We see that amongst many security leaders that we're having conversations with at the moment, especially those in the private sector, of course. But we also have discussions with those in both public and government domain. So I'm curious to gain your perspective in terms of what are the implications for public sector or government organisations if AI isn't governed correctly?
Oh, huge. This is not just the compliance or the legal cost, it is the reputational cost and also the public sector risk, which is you are putting the key stakeholder, which is people, at risk by doing so. So the risk, especially in regulated sector, public sector, is significant. So from a cost point of view, you can't put a number to it. It really depends, how they expose it. For example, let's take the healthcare scenario. If a personal information of a patient is put out on an AI model that you don't own, you don't know how it's been processed. And that alone is a huge risk. And this risk, I think, just to make it a bit more simple for the audience, is Jay, for example, your driving license, it's your personal information, or your credit card, whatever. Yeah. If I had a look, okay, it's almost like you are giving me that data and I'm the third party in this scenario, an AI model, and I've seen it. And you take it back, let's say, yeah, which is a GDPR way of deleting the data. But I've already seen it. Can AI unlearn that? No, I just know who you are, where you live, your age, date of birth, everything, and your address. Unlearning is difficult, and that's the biggest risk I feel public sector and even some mission critical regulated enterprises face today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing your views on that. And the chief AI officer, yourself, I know you're a clear advocate for the role of the CAO. What does the role of chief AI officer really involve, and why is it becoming essential now?
Yeah, it is the glue that makes AI transformation successful. What we've seen traditionally is there is a IT leader, expert, or a chief IT officer or information officer. Then we see there is a CDO, chief data officer. But what we often don't see is chief AI officer. And the reason for that is with AI transformation, you got to start from your IT transformation, which is you almost redesigning, in some scenarios, some new applications and system, or almost transforming some of the existing IT infrastructure to ensure it's delivering AI value. And between IT and AI, there's data. So data transformation needs to happen at the same time. So when an AI officer comes in, his or her responsibility is to triangulate all of this. The people already working, or the stakeholders who are already there, technology that's already available, and how do you govern all of this change and manage all of this? So triangulating all these three things strategically with leadership and technical capabilities. So there's a lot to manage. So I often say chief AI officer is almost like an IT and a data and an AI officer all packaged in one. And this is a good starting point. Most of the businesses don't have center of excellence, let alone AI center of excellence. So sometimes chief AI officer becomes your first individual who comes in to set that up. And it is there with the perspective of, okay, let me do a readiness assessment. Let me see what opportunity we have. So we do what we call the opportunity assessment. And we find out what is the low-hanging fruit and what is the best way forward. And when I go into an organization, I come up with at least three options. Okay, simple, medium, okay, complex, but this will return 20% ROI. This will return about 10% and will take about 3 to 6 months. So someone needs to come in, look at the vision of the business goals, and triangulate all of this and come up with options. So chief AI officer will drive the business going forward. It is as critical as having the IT guy that we had 10, 20 years ago.
No, I appreciate you sharing there. And yeah, from your perspective, how has AI leadership evolved into a certified skill set? And why should organizations invest in accredited AI management pathways, for instance?
Yeah, the problem most of the organizations have, which I mentioned earlier, three problems, which is lack of knowledge, lack of management, and lack of governance. Knowing all of this from day one is superpower. So I always invite leaders and businesses to, invest in knowledge. Technology is changing, but if you understand in principle how to drive AI transformation by understanding how it operates, how to manage, and how to govern, that is a huge competitive advantage. And other competitive advantage about this is no one can pull wool over your eyes. Okay, there's so many tools out there, so many vendors out there, and so many consultants out there like myself, right? How do you know who's saying the right things? Where's the right technology choices you should make? So having that awareness is important. It's similar to you driving a car. You should know just enough what is the right car for you. Otherwise, you'll end up buying something that you will regret later, and paying premium as well. So just that awareness pays its dividend in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I think analogy I like to use in meetings is that you don't need a a 4.68 diesel supercar to drive to the shop, which is 50 yards down the road, for instance. So you don't need to blow the budget and have tools that aren't going to be utilized. Can you tell us a bit more about the BCS, Accredited Chief AI Officer and AI Transformation Management programs, and how these tie into international standards such as the ISO, for instance?
Yeah. So myself and my company, we've been operating in this space for nearly 8 years. And what we have done is we have brought a lot of experts like myself, so ex-IBMs and ex-AWS, and from Standards Institute as well. So we brought us together. We spent good amount of time putting like the framework, curriculum, content, and global best practices. And this program that we built together, it is to solve the three problems, which is lack of knowledge of management, and of course, lack of governance. Governance right now, or compliance rather, is absolutely chaotic, confusing, and complicated. But the global standards, such as the ISO standards of AI, which is 42001, NIST is another US standards, which was rolled out very early in 2022, 2023, if I remember correctly, and recently the European AI Act. If we follow these top three standards and the SDG goals, any corporate or enterprise organization will 90, 95, or even close to 99% of the time will meet the upcoming, and the global requirements of AI transformation. And that, doing that and knowing that from day one is a huge competitive advantage. So what we have done is we turned all these policies and all the, legacy issues that businesses face and fail into content, framework, and success, like steps. That is what's packaged in this BCS accredited AI Chief AI Officer program. So it's practical, it's hands-on. You walk away with strategy, you walk away with practical knowledge and a use case for your business. So that's the USP, and you also look really good from a CSR point of view as well.
No, and I've got some feedback from those that have sort of participated in the past, and obviously I've seen the program that you put together, during our meetings, sort of face to face, and the feedback has been, incredible. You've certainly empowered both individuals and organisations there. So we do commend you and your team for your contributions in that respect.
Just looking a bit more into some of the misconceptions about AI, Sherin. And these misconceptions certainly persisting, despite, of course, much more growing awareness as time goes by. What's some of the most dangerous lies that leaders are being told about AI right now? Apart from vendors promising them that they'll do everything. But, what are some of the most dangerous lies that leaders are being told about AI? And what impact does believing some of these lies have on a company's AI journey?
Yeah, there are many. I'll start with the most common and the obvious one, overlooking governance. So people start with, okay, let's start and conceptualize, and we'll think about governance later. It will come back biting back, in fact. And that is probably the biggest lie that most of the business leaders might have heard. That, okay, let's just start. Without thinking of compliance, that could lead into such a a huge risk down the line, in 6 months, 12 months down the line. If your design is wrong, if your approach is wrong, if you are replacing and displacing people in the process, or regulations, or even sometimes SDG goals, it only takes one person in 12 months down the line to say, yeah, my data, I can't see if this is explainable, this is not transparent, you're doing this and you're doing that. That's it. It only takes one person to complain. So they often overlook that piece. That I feel is a biggest lie. The next one is the cost. People think that okay, yeah, it's just going to cost me, a couple of £100 to get this tool. What they don't realize sometimes is the hidden cost of being non-compliant. Once data's out there, as I said, if someone puts personal information is gone somewhere and stored, you don't know. You absolutely don't know. I'll give you a quick example on that. Someone asked ChatGPT about Sherin Mathew. I don't know how, but it knows everything about me, which is and something that even I
Horribly disconcerting.
yeah, and I'm like, how does it know? Like how it has been fed, and it gets smarter and smarter as well because I'm sure a marketing team or someone might have used that to come up with a bio for me, and it was shocking. So what I'm trying to say is AI learns and remembers. So just be mindful of what you are putting
I
out.
don't think there's a single person that'll be watching this podcast, including myself, who isn't going to jump on Chat GPT straight after it
Thereafter.
to see what they know. No, thanks for sharing.
No problem at all.
And so moving forward, Sharon, could you give us a high-level overview of your simple, safe, strategic, successful AI 360 framework? And how does this holistic approach help leaders overcome many of the common pitfalls that we've discussed and others that I'm sure you're going to highlight in a minute to effectively align AI and business outcomes?
Yeah, 100%. So this is proven and learned from many failures, and this framework has not come easy because it's taken years. When I say years, 8+ years of constant validation and testing. I've been lucky to work with Fortune 500 companies, then through various government bodies. I've worked with hundreds of businesses with so many accelerators, which means we're talking over 100 startups. So this framework has been tried, tested in so many scenarios with so many types of stakeholders and sectors. So it has 7 stages. Now, the first one, which I mentioned earlier, starts strategically with a problem and work in a smart way. So choosing the right problem, okay, that really is your first key step to success. Right problem that will give strategic impact, and then you're making a smart choice on innovation. So innovation, or the second step, which is what technology innovation I would choose here. Okay, is this generative AI, or is this just a chatbot, or is it a machine learning model that needs to understand everything, where you have the full ownership of your AI model or intellectual knowledge? So that's important. Choice of problem, choice of technology. Next one, which often I say overlooked, is ethics, empathy, people, right? So if you put this at the heart of your design, right at the beginning, right at the start of your project, you're ensuring that this is not going to face cultural and compliance risk. So you're safeguarding your idea right at the start. Then, of course, the rest of the things are pretty straightforward, which is how do you plan all the resources, infrastructure, project and everything. So planning is the next part. If you don't have a chief AI officer, at least have that center of excellence that knows how to handle this. So planning is linked to having a center of excellence. Next stage is active and iterative exploration, which is very important because technology changes, compliance and regulation changes, and outcomes of your AI is sometimes unpredictable. Today, on this data, I might get a good result. Tomorrow, on a new data, it might just go downhill. So that active exploration is always required. So it's just not a straight line. It is an iterative process, which leads into the next step, which is constant monitoring, constant adaptive iteration is essential. So having someone or a center of excellence that's responsible for full 360 loop, which is how is it impacting my original idea, my stakeholders, is it delivering value, and how is everything in place with risk and compliance and everything. Having that constant loop is essential. So yeah, these are the key steps, I would say. I just mentioned a few, but yeah, if you put this in practice, you're bound for uh, I would say, a successful AI transformation.
I appreciate you sharing there, Sharon. And for our audience, could you share a little bit more about Innovation X in terms of what it is, and as well as outlining, how the resource and support that you provide leaders is really beneficial?
Yeah, sure. So, firstly, Innovation X is a collaborative knowledge sharing platform where we bring awareness, that light bulb moment, and giving leaders that initial insights in terms of, okay, how to be successful, what you need to know, and know enough that you're not fooled or left behind. Okay, I don't want leaders out there to feel like, okay, AI is not for me. No, it is a technology that is for everyone, but you need to know enough so that no one's pulling wool over your eyes. So Innovation X is that platform that brings that awareness, and we're not selling anything. It's about, how do you use different technology, how do you apply AI cross sector, governance, strategy, technology, all sorts of stuff. So it has abundance of knowledge and genuine evangelists like myself and fellow colleagues who will be coming and championing innovation. So yeah, and resources wise, there's toolkits, as I mentioned, framework, and we won't recommend a platform, but we will be talking about different similar platforms where it could become an enabler. So yes, there's a lot of resources out there, and more importantly, a lot of knowledge to get your AI transformation started.
No, that's brilliant. And who is it open to?
I would say leaders, business leaders, decision makers, influencers. So we are talking on a non-technical term. So it is to drive transformation. So yes, we are targeting mostly leaders and influencers. So we're talking CX levels, founders, directors, owners, senior managers.
No, that's brilliant. And without disclosing too much, what are some of the practical low risk wins that companies can aim to build confidence and, of course, momentum on their AI journey?
Yeah. So this is where I think the framework really helps. So starting with listing out what are my business problems, or where are my business problem rather. And as you probably know, business function can be broken down by, okay, marketing, operations, delivery, etc., etc. And I'm spending X amount of time on marketing. I'm spending Y amount of time on back-end operations. Now, just think about it. If I was to automate, say, the back-end operation or document management or compliance steps by using some tools, what's the ROI for me? So I think those are the questions that leaders need to ask today. And that will give them, if I just buy a tool that solves my marketing problem. If I buy a tool that converts this document into something, that solves my operational problem by not 20%. And that 20% across your organization is a significant amount of returns. So you got to rationalize that way.
No, I appreciate that. And do you think leaders should be looking in other areas of the business to see where they can actually add value if they integrate that tool? So when they go into the boards, that they have allies and advocates to say, we can cost save here, improve efficiencies here, and make the user or even service user experience a bit more
Yeah,
efficient.
I will invite all the leaders to do this little housekeeping exercise. Just look at the business holistically, find out which one's doing well, which one is not, and how can they do better, and what would that look like? What does good look like with AI? And just doing this little exercise by assuming, and this is an average stat, that AI brings about 10% business growth, okay, if done rightly. So just assume if I was to get 10% impact and returns and growth in certain areas, what does the holistic return look like? 10 here, 10 there, and 10 here is 30. So just rationalizing that way will be a good starting point.
Yeah, and I think to get that, compounding effect, of course, you need that consistency, and you need organizations and individuals showing up, time after time. And as we've seen over the last 24 months, the rate of innovation has certainly grown exponentially. And you mentioned AI Center of Excellence a few times. Now, for our audience, could you outline exactly what that is and why it's crucial for scaling AI initiatives?
Yeah, so the three reasons that businesses or AI transformations within businesses fail is lack of knowledge, lack of management, and lack of governance. So AI Center of Excellence is pretty much to solve these three issues, which is how do you bring the right technology, how do you bring the right people, and how do you put right governance in place? And that is the secret to success. I often say it could be as simple as leadership board coming together to triangulate these three areas: people, tech, and governance. If you don't have that initial expertise, obviously there's ways to get that, which is get yourself on a training program or hire someone like a chief AI officer who knows how to triangulate this. So that's, I would say, step one. And AI Center of Excellence could be as light as possible as having internal team with that knowledge, or as comprehensive as having a chief AI officer handling all of these areas. And some enterprises even go even further. So the textbook definition, or my ideal definition, will be having a good data scientist, an application specialist, a good leadership team, compliance body. We're talking good few, 4 or 5 people working closely to drive that center of excellence across the board.
And does that all need to be internal, or do you believe in sort of collaboration with external consultancies and academia, for instance?
Yes, but I would say it is internal first, because center of excellence is almost like, imagine going back 20 years ago, having your IT team. Yeah. The value of that. So yes, it could be outsourced, it could be collaborative to start with, but eventually you need to own this. You got to have this internally, and this is your make or break, And this center of excellence starts delivering all those impactful capabilities in your enterprise or business. When I said 10% ROI across different functions, this is that center of excellence that does that on a repeated and in a reproducible basis with repeated success as well. So yes, it's an investment in your business, and I will recommend, if you do have an AI strategy, or if you don't have one, think about AI Center of Excellence as an investment in your business to bring that long-term return.
And one of the challenges that I personally face in meetings, and I know a lot of technology and security leaders face, is proving that value to the board up front. They've really got the attitude, they've even got the internal resource and the know-how, perhaps, of building out AI teams. But there is often pushback from the boards, especially if the organization or teams at that experimental stage, as opposed to really delivering value up front. So how can they best go about communicating that to the board and convincing them to release budget, or give them sign off at least?
Yeah, I usually start with addressing the elephant in the room, which is, okay, look, you might be whatever million ARR or EBITDA you are at right now. And if your vision is to become 20% or 25% in next 2-3 years down the line, everyone has equal access to market. There's another business next to you, or similar businesses similar to you, that could be using AI to get that competitive edge. So I would say bringing competitive perspective really helps, giving alignment to the corporate or the enterprise vision in terms of where we're trying to go over the next 2 years, 3 years down the line, and how AI becomes an enabler. So it's really putting that business case from a competition and from a value and impact point of view. AI is such a huge enabler. So I think we just got to realize, if there's only 10 players in the market, and if 5 of them are going to use AI to acquire 20% of extra market, that's going from somewhere. And that is our market, my business market. So I think we just got to be mindful of that in this race, that if we snooze, we're going to lose.
No, I appreciate you sharing there. And a question that we're commonly asked, and I know when we make introductions for AI Tech UK and O360, is certainly one that comes up in conversation. So how do you balance agility with governance in AI centers of excellence to avoid bureaucracy and, of course, stalling of innovation?
Yeah, again, it's something that needs to be factored in the center of excellence. So it is integrated part of the change. Center of excellence is not just an individual. it is a organizational level, center of excellence, which means senior executive leaders need to have full they need to be fully involved. There should be senior executive support, fully onboarded. We should have their buy-in. Otherwise, this won't work. So it is something as a part of center of excellence. If you're hiring a chief AI officer, it needs to come from senior exec. Otherwise, this is the hidden cost that we often spoke about, where you might hire a very expensive resource or a data scientist or a tool or a platform, but it's not being accepted by the end user. It's just a huge failure. There's so many examples, but it's for another day.
So look, let's talk a little bit about what some may consider the most important part of AI, ironically, which is the human side. So for many founders, startup leaders, adopting AI is obviously going to be a huge decision, going to feel overwhelming, understandably. But what are some of the most common mental or emotional challenges that they're going to face with this, do you think?
Okay, I'll bring my personal journey here, if that's okay, Jay. Over the last 8 years, I've really struggled is probably not the right word. It's because I'm passionate about it. It keeps me up at night, wakes me up at first thing in the morning. I'm like, oh, technology change, GPT-5. What does that really mean? European AI Act is launched. What does that really mean? So I feel AI, especially for experts and pioneers and likes of people like me, it's brought tremendous, I would say. I've been burnt out on many occasions trying to keep up with the change, the tech disruption. I will build a platform for someone, and then there's new model, new technology. So yeah, there's always what we call this AI anxiety, and sometimes it can be very overwhelming. That minute you go on LinkedIn, oh my God, another thing to worry about and factor a strategy around mitigating that disruption. So yes, it can be quite challenging, but there's a way out, which I'm happy to share if needed.
And I think maintaining that clarity and balance throughout all the hype and the pressure we've talked about. What are some of your, if you don't mind sharing, maybe some of your go-to tactics?
Yeah, I previously, when I got on my AI journey, because I was responsible for my clients, I would be very anxious, and I would be like constantly researching. Now I stopped scrolling. So there are so many experts claim to be.
It's a mantra for life, Sherin. Stop scrolling.
Yeah, stop scrolling, because there's so many AI experts out there who have recently become an AI expert. I've been in this field for nearly 2 decades, building my first robot with image processing on a webcam. So, and there are so many experts who are constantly posting stuff. I'm like, okay, stating the obvious. So I've stopped scrolling. I only research on a need to know basis if it impacts and it risks any of my strategies with my projects or with my clients. So yes, going to on a need to know basis, a little bit of switch off and detox helps. And more importantly, when I work with my clients, I ensure it is done in the right way from the start. So I'm at peace, client is at peace. They're not getting that stress. Oh, what if this changes? We've done the right way. Trust me. This is designed to last for next, 5+ years, not just for next 3 months. So that's the way I take an approach. So that's helped me massively. And yes, I use my own recipe or the simple AI framework that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, that's helped me massively.
And going into a bit more of the future, I suppose, preparing young people for what is undoubtedly an AI-driven future. Do you think education systems are struggling? We're at a point where they're ready for this? And what steps do you think we should maybe take to empower teachers and parents with the right tools?
Yeah, very interesting question. Education system is really struggling to keep up. with AI change. And what we noticed is there are many high performing universities in the UK who have reached out to us to complement their courses with some of our, frameworks and modules to complement, give them real world insights. So the problem we're facing, or everyone is facing, parents, teachers, schools, universities, is the relevance because of the change of pace. So that is the immediate challenge, and the way probably to address it is really sometimes stating the obvious, staying on top of the change, understanding the change. But I take a slightly different perspective, which is yes, that's needed. But if you know things on a principle basis, you'll still be okay. What I mean by that is, I'm going to use again the example of driving. If you know how to drive safely and know how the car operates and you know how to manage a car, no matter where you go, which country, which planet, you'll be okay to drive in a safe, secure manner. As long as you know when to put the seatbelt on, when to put the brakes on. These are the key critical things that needs to be made aware right now. Okay. So no matter if technology changes, a model changes tomorrow, you know when to put the brakes on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And we've got to build those next generation of AI leaders, I guess. And looking into the future, what does your the future hold for yourself? And maybe tell us a bit more about AI Tech and AI Tech UK's vision, a mission, a purpose, and where you're heading.
Absolutely. I started AI Tech UK as a blog site back in 2018 and built a website myself, 2017 Christmas holiday. So my vision at that time was to make AI simple, accessible, safe, and successful for everyone. So so it's still our mission and vision. And over the years, we have evolved massively from a conceptual blog site. We started running conferences, webinars, and we started evangelizing what AI really should do and how it should be used in a real, true sense. So yes, what future holds for us? There's of course there's a lot of executive AI programs that we are running or planning to run with our partners and organizations. So it's almost on demand, on request basis. So we're seeing a lot of that coming through. A lot of requests for fractional AI officer support, which is very rewarding in its own way, because we get really excited to work with new organization, new domain, and we work with so many cross-sector organizations that we can repeat that success again. So I think is doing the right thing, having that recipe to make the perfect AI transformation. So there's a lot of toolkits that's in demand. There's a program, and more importantly, Innovation X, which is also in demand. All of this gives everyone a huge competitive edge, reducing their risk and giving them that assurance and peace that we're doing the right thing from day one. So it all aligns with our mission, keeping it simple, safe, and successful for all.
Wise words. And look, we're absolutely certain this is going to be a huge success and continued success for you, Sherin. We know you well, and we're incredibly proud to partner with you on some of your initiatives as well, certainly as Innovation X. And if people want to stay connected beyond obviously the episode and outside of maybe just LinkedIn, is there anywhere else that they can reach out to you?
Yes, we publish a lot of content, especially when technology and compliance changes. So we're constantly putting things out on Innovation X, and of course, follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of relevant changes, frameworks, European Act, how to apply that practically. So this is sometimes a big, blocker for many organizations. So we champion that. We often go to Europe. Not often. we often travel to Europe, but we get invited to even deliver how to implement European AI Act by European Commission. So we get invited by them to deliver some of these talks. So some of these things will be live on our Innovation X platform. So follow us on Innovation X, which is innovationxuk.com, or even on our website if you need any direct access.
And before we wrap up the session, Sharon, without disclosing too much, if there are organizations out there that will support what you're doing and partner with the initiative, what sort of organizations are going to be welcomed?
Yeah. So firstly, I want to thank you for starting this journey. So really appreciate Cyber Connect and Secure Connect as well to, really making this vision into a reality. So thank you, both of you, Jay and Warren. And which means we are open to anyone who has similar missions and value, which is delivering impact at scale and empowering leaders, businesses, and future generations. So Innovation Exchange is an open platform, welcomes anyone who is aligned with these values, which is impact, growth, empowering people, leaders of tomorrow. So yes, everyone is welcome as long as they have a technology angle and they're keen to do the right thing. And if they have anything to offer in return, which is the ecosystem, network, or technology, we would be more than happy to collaborate.
Amazing. Well, Sherin, thank you so much. I'm sure the community, all our listeners, will have loved the episode. If anyone wants to continue the discussion and for more sustained engagement, as always, we invite you to join the Secure Cyber Connect community, where we offer a range of collaborative solutions for tech and security professionals at no cost. Expansive community access, mutual mentoring, online networking, and interviews, exclusive interviews, such as this, with panel discussions, live events, and masterclasses coming throughout 2025 and beyond. If you want to learn more, gain access to the community and our initiatives, as always, visit secure-recruitment.com/cyber-connect/. Sherin, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Cheers, everyone.